Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show. Hey, Print on Demand Metaverse. This is Travis, and just wanted to give a little preamble before we get into the show today. Both Josiah and I have incredibly intensive weeks, and we just were not able to sync up and put a show together for you guys. So I'm very sorry. Unfortunately, you'll have to deal with this rebroadcast. Now, this rebroadcast, we talk about it all the time when we're referencing organization. And so that's basically what this episode is all about. It's episode 10, and it's all about organizing your SKUs, your design files, some of what I do on a daily basis in our business with, how we organize things to where we can utilize them easier later on down the line. And so once you have that system of organization, it really can serve you as you're, putting your things on different channels. You can use the same mockups, the same SKUs, the same design links, et cetera, et cetera. So we do reference this particular podcast a lot. And I think if you listen to it all the way through, you'll see why. It's there's a lot of valuable information in here. And while, we recorded this close to 3 years ago, and some of it's probably updated a little bit, this will at least give you an idea of what you need to think about when you begin in print on demand, or when you're getting started, or even if you've been in it for a while. It may give you some ideas on how you can reorganize in order to maximize your efficiency when listing on multiple channels. So hopefully that makes sense. We also talk a little bit about Amazon FBA versus Walmart's fulfillment services, which at the time of the recording about 3 years ago was pretty new, and I'm sure a lot has changed. So, but it's still an interesting concept if you have a winner in print on demand, actually utilizing Fulfilled by Amazon, actually sending your products into Fulfillment by Amazon, having them do all of that stuff for you. And then simultaneously, if you have different winners or even the same winners on Walmart, you can use Walmart fulfillment services. The processes are a little different, but they're pretty similar. So anyway, that's in the point of interest part. And then the main event is all about organizing your SKUs. So I'll stop talking so you guys can listen in and hopefully get a few golden nuggets to take your print on demand to the next level. So let's get into it.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the tools, advice, and strategy you need to achieve success, and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now, on to this week's show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Print on Demand class. We're going to take that again. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Print on Demand Cast. We're so excited that you decide to join us. Press play, press download, press subscribe each and every week. I'm very excited to have you here with us. As always, I'm Josiah, and I'm joined once again, as always, Travis Ross is joining me. Travis, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's, we're kind of getting into the Q4 stuff, and things are picking up a little bit. Got a lot of irons in the fire. I'm sure you are probably tired of printing T-shirts, but hey, it's only just begun, my friend.
It has only just begun, and I just got back from a friend's wedding in Arizona, which was a nice reprieve. It was good to see friends and catch up with some faces I haven't seen in a long time, but wedding trips are never a true vacation because every minute is allotted from the time you touch the ground to the time you leave. He lives in Tucson, Arizona. I've never been to Tucson, and it's hot. Oh, it's the desert, obviously, very hot. So he decided to have his wedding, and I think Brock. He's been to a couple of poker nights, and so it was his wedding, and man, his wedding was like at 3:00 in the afternoon in Arizona outside. We were all in 3-piece suits, standing in the blazing sun, and I told him, I said, "Listen, man, I'm this close to not being your friend, because this is torturous." I mean, like, I am losing some pounds. Yes, but upon return, of course, it's playing. I've played catch up the last 2 days, and I always regret. It's always good to leave, but then you get back, you're like, what the crap? Why did I leave for so long? I have so much to do.
Right. Well, I mean, it's always better to go to a wedding than to go to a funeral. So, it could have been a funeral.
That's true.
So, look on the bright side, my friend.
Could have gone to the funeral and still had to catch up with work, which is like a double depression. It's like a depression sandwich, I guess. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Things are cooking. Irons are in the fire. And we are here again with another episode. Lots of exciting tidbits of information for all of you to ingest through your ear holes, which is the weirdest sentence I've said in probably 2 weeks. But we're going to start things off, as always, with a point of interest.
Point of interest. Oh, yeah. Point of interest. Point of interest. Point of interest.
So, Travis, this week, the point of interest deals with a platform that you and I are familiar with. We sell on this particular platform, and they are upping their game, as they have been for a while, trying to compete with Amazon, which is kind of the granddaddy of e-commerce platforms. So Walmart is launching Walmart Fulfillment Services, which is a competitor to Fulfilled by Amazon. So why don't you break it down a little bit for us, man? Compare, contrast Walmart Fulfillment Services versus Fulfilled by Amazon.
Sure. So, I mean, let's start by saying, a lot of our print-on-demand friends out there that are utilizing different channels to sell their wares. Probably a lot of them aren't necessarily using FBA, but if once you get kind of some traction with some of these things, FBA, which is Fulfillment by Amazon, it can really help you accelerate, kind of pour gas on the fire with a particular design that's happening or whatever. And so Walmart, like you said, trying to catch up, and they've really gained a lot of ground, specific on Amazon. They're doing Walmart Fulfillment Services, and so so there's a few differences, like you said. One of the differences for the shopper is that there's no annual fee. So in order to get the free 2-day shipping, you just have to have a minimum of a $35 purchase. So that's kind of different.
Yeah.
I mean, with Amazon, you can buy a $5 whatever widget and you still get free shipping. Not so with Amazon. Not so with Walmart, but on Amazon, you have to, fork over $100 a year to have the privilege to get that $5 pin.
Sure.
Let's see. On Walmart, you've got it's like a Prime badge. They call it a tag. It's a 2-day tag, and it gives that particular item a search boost, so it's more likely to come up in a search. And it also, if there are other sellers, which typically isn't the case on a print-on-demand product, but if you're selling another, a commoditized product or something else, it does increase your buy box chances, much like the Prime badge does on Amazon. Yeah. And then this was super interesting. So Walmart's kind of boasting that it's really easy to return their products.
Sure.
When a customer doesn't like it or whatever, they can return it easily, which I don't know if I like that or not, but because I want them to keep it,
Right.
But the interesting stat was that 90% of Americans live within 15 minutes of a Walmart. Isn't that insane?
Wow. That is insane.
That's just crazy. I
And
mean,
where do the other 10% live? Is the question. Like,
right?
where's the other 10%? That's not within 15 minutes of a Walmart. Is it? I mean, Death Valley, I guess, if anyone populates that place, or like that. That was a crazy statistic. And conversely, we're talking about Walmart trying to gain ground on Amazon, but their brick and mortar locations is something that Amazon has tried to catch up with them on, which is why they've acquired places like Whole Foods, and you know what I mean. Like they're trying to get some brick and mortar presence to help the return process, because now I can go to Whole Foods and return my Amazon product as opposed to having to print on a label and drop it off at UPS or what have you. So that's interesting. I think Walmart definitely. Yeah, Kohl's is another place that you can go for an Amazon return. But that statistic, 90% of Americans live 15 minutes from a Walmart. That's a pretty big footprint in the brick and mortar space.
For real. I mean, you know, Amazon may have the hold on e-commerce sales, but Walmart definitely has the hold on brick and mortar sales. That's for sure. So contrasting WFS, which is Walmart Fulfillment Services, that's their cute little abbreviation, to FBA. FBA on the other side has, you know, they've been around a long time. They have the consumer trust. You know, people, they've already, I don't remember what the number of actual credit cards they have on file, but it's some million I don't know how many millions, but it's just some astronomical number that just doesn't even make sense, you know? So you know, they've been around a while. They have the consumer trust. And then of course there's other Prime benefits, like video, you know, Prime Video, Prime Music, and there's other things like that. That the customers get if they want to spend that $100, and then of course they don't have to spend $35 to get it shipped free, so they can do that $5 pen. You know, so those are some of the benefits. Yeah,
for sure. What do you think the over under is? This is a rabbit hole. Do you think we'll ever see Walmart video on demand, Walmart original series?
Ooh, I have no idea. I mean, I don't see them doing that, you know, anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. Yeah, I feel like everything between Apple TV, HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, I feel like the rights to most every TV show in the world is tied up to one of those 5 contenders, or you know what I mean? So maybe when the HBO contract with Friends lapses, Walmart will just swoop in.
Here we go, pivot,
and make their bank off of Friends.
Yeah, I could. I mean, if Walmart was going to do anything, I would see them doing more of the partnering with a Showtime or an HBO or something like that, as opposed to trying to create their own content. You know, if they wanted to really jump in there, which I mean, they don't really have the server infrastructure that Amazon does. Nope. You know, so, I mean,
it would definitely be the next phase or next couple phases away. It's just interesting to think, if they're trying to compete with Amazon, where does that stop? Or are they going to be good with just competing on the online sales? Are they going to want to try and stick it to them in other areas as well? Like it's just an interesting thought as to what could happen.
I mean, I think Amazon has, you know, I mean, but most people don't realize, but their server, like what people pay to use their servers, that's actually their highest revenue, you know, branch, I guess, if you will, or department of Amazon. And so I don't think that Walmart or anybody else for that matter really has the ability to chase that down at this point. I think Amazon's kind of got, you know, a corner in the market. So in order to do that, I think it'd have to be a partnership. But anyway, so
I think there's better chance of Amazon acquiring Walmart before Walmart starts pushing out original content.
Right.
So what else in the what else does FBA offer that WFS does not at the moment?
Well, the one other thing that FBA does offer is commingling, and what that means is if you and again, it's probably not for a print-on-demand item because typically you're the only seller of that particular print-on-demand item. But say you were selling, a microphone, like a blue snowball microphone, and you've somehow got a contract with Blue, and you're selling this microphone. You get it wholesale, and you're selling it on Amazon, or I'm sorry, you're selling it on. Well, yeah, you're selling it on Amazon. Somebody else also has a contract. They're also selling it on Amazon. They can do, or you can turn on what's called commingling, to where when you send in your product, the moment you say it's on the way, if you get a sale, Amazon can pull one off the shelf of somebody of another seller and sell that particular Blue microphone while yours is on the way. So there's a benefit to that, because you don't have the downtime of the transit between your facility and Amazon's facility.
Essentially never out of stock kind of thing.
Yeah. As long as you have something on the way, they see it and they'll debit that kind of credit you, or they'll credit the other guy with your stock and vice versa. The downside of that is, like, if you're selling, and I know this to be a fact, if you're selling shoes, and one guy has the nice shoes, and they're brand new and they're all nice in the box and everything, and I'm sending in my shoes, and then another guy, he throws them in a bag, and my customer is getting them in a bag, and then they leave me a bad review because they didn't get the box. So there's a good and bad with commingling. But anyway, the bottom line is that Walmart does not commingle. Amazon, you can turn it on, you can turn it off. It's up to you. But Walmart does not do that. So that's kind of it for the comparisons. But how do we get in?
Yeah, how does that work? How does someone that's currently selling on Walmart get in? And from the research that we've done, I'll say the research that our staff has done, because that seems way more schwanky. No, but listen, if you're already a Walmart seller, you will be able to see from your Walmart seller account or seller center. It's so close to Seller Central that it's almost criminal, because I get it so confused. But there's a button, and you press it. So that starts the application process as to whether or not you'll be accepted. And once you are, it's the same kind of process as Fulfilled by Amazon, where you send in your inventory and you're off to the races. A couple prerequisites, or a couple things that you have to keep in mind. You have to ship products to Walmart Fulfillment Center locations within the U.S. Do you know? I don't know if the article said. Do you know off the top of your head how many of those locations there are at the moment throughout the U.S.?
I don't know how many you can send them to. Unfortunately, this particular article that our staff researched it from didn't really share that. There's a couple other things though that you need to know. They're not going to do perishable items or anything that's been regulated. Products also have to weigh under 30 pounds. So these are also differentiators from FBA, because you can sell perishable items on Amazon FBA, and you can send. They can be 30 pounds or more. And then the other thing about Walmart is that items cannot exceed a dimension of 25 by 20 by 14 inches. So they're basically doing up front what Walmart or what Amazon perhaps should have done, and are trying to kind of put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak, and limit their exposure with, people sending in massive quantities of huge items. And
and if they don't have a lot of fulfillment centers either, and there's not a lot of square footage space, that kind of helps mitigate, again, the space that you have. It kind of maximize that space a little bit, I guess you could say, by those requirements, the weight and dimension requirements. So, there you have it, folks. Walmart Fulfillment Services has arrived. If you are a seller, you can apply. If you're not selling on Walmart yet, you can Google search Walmart Seller Center and apply to get on the platform and kind of start from scratch. But those are the two ways that you can access this platform. So that's it for this week's Point of Interest. And with that, we're going to move directly into the main event.
Ladies and gentlemen, the main event.
Travis, the main event of this episode is something that I think is always on the mind when you're building a business, but it maybe never is on the forefront or given as much consideration as it should be. And that's organization. I feel like everyone knows being organized is a good thing. Obviously, some people are way better at organization by default than others. I know for myself, I can be organized if I need to be. Left to my own devices, Lord help me. But in certain scenarios, if I need to be organized, I need to have systems for myself to keep myself in place. Then I can implement those. But in a business, organization covers such a wide variety of things that you need to kind of be forward thinking about.
Right. No, it's super important. And I mean, we could literally have a whole series on this particular topic because, I mean, just like you said, it touches every part of your business. But what we're going to specifically focus on, because this is the Print on Demand cast, we're going to specifically focus on design organization and SKU organization. Yeah. And so why don't you tell the audience what is a SKU, and then beyond that, kind of tell us how you and your company has gone about the organization of your designs and your SKUs.
Yeah, for sure. So a SKU is basically, when you list an item, a T-shirt on Amazon, let's say, every size is a SKU, every color variation is a SKU. It's all an individual SKU item. So
it's a stock keeping unit. That's the abbreviation for it.
Yep. So then you have, the design organization as well, there's a couple different ways you can store your designs. We use Dropbox, and we have them in various folders and subfolders, T-shirt designs, and then the date, and then the name of the design. And we match the name of the design with the name of the title that we list on Amazon. And that's typically how we've been able to find the designs we need to print when orders come in. I will say that we focused more in the beginning on scaling and getting clients and building out and getting the volume, and then in the last year or so, having to really turn around and focus on the system of organization, how it works. And it's super, super hard when you're 2 years in, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, we didn't build this system with scaling in mind. And it's really hard because as we're passing on hiring production people, the system isn't as set it and forget it, to use a lack of a better term, as it probably should be. And so we run into a lot of instances where sometimes art isn't named correctly, or we named it a certain way in the beginning in the system, and we've pivoted, and now that it's of no use, and we have to go back and change it. So there's so much retroactive organization happening that we could have prevented if we were proactive in the organization of everything. And so that's what I mean when a lot of people are just kind of hit the ground and go and figure it out as it happens, which is fine. But you find yourself in a place after a couple years and you're scaling and you've got a lot of volume coming in that, I don't know how good this organization system actually is now, because sometimes our crew, our staff is spending 5 to 10 minutes looking for a piece of art, and that's way too long. You could have printed 2 shirts or 3 shirts or whatever and moved on by then. So it's something that we are having to retool and rethink, which is a growing pain and a consequence of us just focusing on other areas before organization. But I know you have locked and loaded systems and organization for design and SKU organization specifically. So why don't you tell people listening kind of how you came to that system and how it works and how you've implemented, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I, much like you, I started kind of just willy-nilly I started on Amazon just like you guys did. And now, we've expanded to other channels and such. But when I started, when I created a listing on Amazon, I just allowed Amazon to give me an automatic SKU for my different products. And so we went along with that. And, that's fine for 50, 100, a couple hundred designs, because you can typically find what you need based on the SKU, because you don't have a whole ton.
Right.
And then, so we had like a spreadsheet that had like, the SKU and the product name or something, and maybe like a link to, we also, at that time, we used Dropbox And maybe we had them in a all of the designs together in a folder, but the designs like yours were just kind of named with the product name or the title or whatever, and didn't really have a lot of organization. And so after a few hundred listings, is like, okay, this is getting a little bit challenging, because at that time I was doing all of my own printing, in my basement basically, and
right.
So it was getting a little difficult, and so we basically came to a place where we started naming our designs with what we call a DID, or a design ID. And we literally went back on all of the old designs, and we mapped, we basically renamed the design, the PNG that we use, because we use PNGs with a transparent background. We renamed those to, 1,200,463 or whatever .png. And we did that. We started with 1 million, so we could go higher. Right. I mean, you could have started with 100,000, could have started with 10 million, whatever. And we just said, 1,000,001, 1,000,002, and we mapped them to all those SKUs. And so now our list, if you will, our spreadsheet, which has well over 40,000 lines on it, has a SKU, a design ID, a product name, a product type, a size, a color, and then it has the print URL on that particular field. And so what we ended up doing, so originally we were just doing, the SKUs were very random, didn't really have any of the product information in them. Once we started implementing this new system where we named the designs, the design ID, we changed our SKU naming system. And so now our SKUs are taken from that, basically those things. So our SKUs are typically the design ID dash, and then we on our designs, we have a light and a dark version, depending on if it's going to be printed on a light or a dark shirt, or a, sure. Light is for coffee mugs because it's white, if we did a dark, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be like design ID dash L dash MG11. So that's mug, an 11-ounce mug, or MG12. Or C11 or C10 or whatever. I think camping, or CM10 or something like that. And then if we have a T-shirt, it's design ID dash L or D, to light or dark, dash TS for T-shirt, and then maybe it's blue, so BLU dash XL, and that'll be that particular SKU. And then of course I have every color and every size of those that same design ID with the different color, or the different colors and the different sizes. Right. And so all of that is on this spreadsheet, and then they all link to a print URL. And so the cool thing about that is that when we're building these inventory uploader files for Amazon, or for Walmart, or for wish.com, or wherever, Shopify, we're able to we have all the information on the same line, and we can kind of copy and paste an entire column when it's asking for a specific, if it's asking for SKUs, or if it's asking for the product name, or if it's asking for the description. We have all of those things in this big, huge spreadsheet.
Sure.
And then we can, kind of copy and paste, and it's all organized really nice and easy. We did find one thing out, and it kind of put a little hitch in our giddy up. Do you like that? Do you like that? Hitch in our giddy up?
That's nice.
That's fun. That's fun. We found out that Walmart.com, when you're using their inventory uploader files, they don't like Dropbox links. And so we had to, in the middle of it, basically take all of our designs, and we use a storage solution called wasabi.com, and we moved everything over to Wasabi. And so in Wasabi, what you have you have a bucket, and then inside the buckets you can put folders. So what we did was we named each bucket with the design ID. And so for instance, let's say I have a shirt about nurses, and it's 1,000,001. Let's just say that. So I have a bucket that's called 1,000,001. Inside of that bucket, there are, first of all, there's the PNG for the L for the light version, and there's the PNG for the dark version. That's just not in a folder, just right there in the bucket. Then I have folders inside of that, and the folders will have, one folder will be the design assets. So if we have a PSD or an AI file that the designer created it from, it'll be in there. If we have a special font that they used, it'll be in there. All of the design assets are right there in a design folder. Then we have, not inside of that, but inside of the main bucket, we have a folder for every product that we have using that design. So if we have a mug folder, and then inside of that mug folder, it has all the listing pictures for that particular product. And then inside of the T-shirt folder, it has all the listing pictures for the T-shirts. If we do a camping mug, or if we do, a sign, or whatever we do, we have a folder with all of the listing pictures, all right there. So all of our data is inside of one little area, and if we ever need something, we can access it pretty quickly. The other benefit is if you need to change print-on-demand partners. I mean, as well as all our listeners know, back in Mother's Day, Father's Day this year, some of the print-on-demand companies were just inundated and having 2-3 week delays. And so a lot of people were like, oh, I can't deal with this. I need to switch to another print partner. And having all of this data like that really makes it a lot easier to switch, to kind of flip the switch if you need to, if you find that somebody else is going to be able to help you in a better way. So that's kind of the way we did it. I know it's not super fun listening to somebody talk about things that are written down. Let's talk about spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are a great topic to have on an audio podcast.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it's super crucial though. If anything, the purpose of this podcast hopefully is to get people to start thinking about those systems. Even as you're talking, I am in my mind trying to figure out how my company can implement an organization system that, I mean, either way you slice it, it's going to be a very arduous process because we're so far into everything. But we're going to have to figure out, it'd be figuring out a system, hiring VAs to implement that system, and then just kind of writing out that transition from the system we have now to the next. But the purpose of this, I think, is primarily to get people thinking about structuring your systems before you kind of venture. Instead of ready, shoot, aim, it's kind of a ready, aim, fire type situation, which everyone has been guilty of the ready, fire, aim scenario. I have, you have, people listening have. So hopefully the point of the goal of this is to get people just thinking about it, map it out, whiteboard it, see what makes sense. You'll probably inevitably have to make some adjustments when you start to practically implicate it, but just the idea of having a general, a parameter of what you want that system to be is so incredibly important because, I mean, we fulfill some of your stuff, and it's so easy to be like, oh, this is Travis's, that's the SKU number. Okay, it's in the spreadsheet, download the art. Okay, then you save the print file by the same number. So forever and always in our print software, we just type in that number and there's your stuff. It's just how it is. It's really hard to mess up, if it's all just serial based as far as the number goes. Yeah. So I think that, I mean, everyone has their own flow. Everyone has their own style, but the goal is to get people to kind of take action, even if you haven't even bought the equipment yet. Mm-hmm. Get the systems figured out so that when you're starting to roll, you find that it's super scalable. Because the ultimate goal is when you start hiring people to your company is, make it so easy a monkey could do it type thing, Yeah.
You need to, I mean, standard operating procedures, SOPs, are super, super important. And having your stuff organized makes your SOPs even easier. You know what I mean? It's like, push, you put the fries in the fryer and you push the button and you stand there and you wait till it beeps, then you take them out of the fryer and dump them. I mean, it's very 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you have, organization and you've thought through it, it really goes a long way. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It took us a long time to get this, system, because we started
Sure.
and, like I said, we had a lot of designs, we had a lot of stuff. So my advice, if you already are printing or already doing this, keep going with your existing systems and then start building this on the side, because it's going to take a while, but get it done. And then anything new you do from today forward, once you've implemented that system, put it in the new system. Make sure it's up to the standards or up to the it's part of that new system, so you don't go back to the way it was before. And this really does boil down to kind of a rip the Band-Aid off scenario. I mean, totally. You can put it off, but it's at your own detriment. I mean, you mentioned taking 5 or 10 minutes to find a piece of art, and that's money out of your pocket. And then you multiply that by a year from now, and now it's a bunch of pieces of art that are taking 5 to 10 minutes, and it doesn't go away on its own. You have to take initiative.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same principle, just even, interpersonal communication wise, where the notion of avoiding conflict will resolve the conflict. No, avoiding conflict results in a larger conflict, and there's usually a much bigger fallout than there would have been from the initial conflict that you avoided in the first place. So, listen, for those of you listening, I know you probably have more questions, and it's totally fine. You can always email Travis and I at info@printondemandcast.com. If you have a system that is just gangbusters, that's easy to implement, that you have found people have been able to kind of acquire relatively easily with a learning curve, but not a steep one, let us know. Let us know, hey, I have a system that works really well. Again, email us info@printondemandcast. We'd love to hear it. We'd even love to have you on to talk about the system that you're implementing and to give people kind of the idea or as to which way to go. So I think that I would be super, super open to that, of course. And you can find us printondemandcast.com. If you have found this information to be helpful, I know I have. I'd rate myself. Maybe I will. I'll rate ourselves a 5-star on iTunes, because I find this information helpful each and every week. Even the points of interest, and especially the interviews that we do, are super, super heavy in just knowledge of the industry, which is awesome. So if you find this information helpful, or either of us mildly entertaining, I always say that because I think we're more than mildly entertaining, but I'm biased. So rate us on iTunes, give us that 5-star, subscribe. It helps us get in front of other people that need this information. Share this podcast with your friends in the industry, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you want to share the show. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. So before we put a bow on this, Travis, anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
I'll just say one more thing. There are some people out there that, this is a hobby. It's not necessarily something that they're really trying to scale. My goal in doing this was so I could scale, and have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of listings across multiple channels. And so I knew the only way I was going to be able to do that was with organization. So, but if you're, somebody that's content with a few hundred designs, this may be overkill. Sure. You may not need this, and that's totally fine. It's really kind of, it's dependent on what your vision for your business is, and what your vision for your business is perfect for you. And we don't want to ever come across like, that's not okay or whatever. We just, we're just giving out information and things that have helped us, and so that's really all I wanted to add. That wherever you're at, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a hobbyist and like Travis said, you're good with where you're at, that's great. This episode maybe isn't for you. Maybe you keep it on the back burner. Should this hobby snowball into something different, you can always come back and listen to it again. So, but whatever your model is, whatever you're content with, whatever your goals are fantastic. We don't want to come across as bullish and try and make you develop a multi-million listing machine here, but so all right, so with that said, Travis, we'll put a bow on this. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll be back next week right here on the Print on Demand Cast.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next week.